Welcome to the Briefing Room. This is the place where we talk with developers and flight sim enthusiasts. We've got something really exciting for the first episode. We're talking to Captain, the developer of BeyondATC. We'll cover where the idea came from and the challenges of building it and what simmers can expect in the future. Let's welcome the legend behind BeyondATC himself, Captain. Thank you so much for joining us today, kicking off this brand new series.
Amazing, man. Thanks for having me.
Your program, BeyondATC, is really, truly an incredible thing. And you've helped so many people not only get more into flight sim, but also learn about ATC, which is a challenging thing for sure.
Absolutely. And I mean, it's funny because I didn't know much about ATC when I started this program, and now I know far more than I ever thought I would about the subject. So it's been a learning experience for all of us, I can guarantee you.
That's fantastic. It's fantastic. So let's go ahead and start with the first question here. And that is, are you an avid flight simmer yourself? And if so, what is your favorite aircraft or route to fly?
Yeah, I am. And, you know, let me regale you with a quick story that kind of explains some of my dedication to the craft, if you will.
Absolutely.
So a while ago, I think it was a couple of years at this point, I saw a Tom Scott video, the YouTuber guy, and he was attempting to land a Boeing 737 in a flight simulator while the other YouTube mentor pilot was talking to him on a radio, and he was going to say press this button and do this. And long story short, he basically ended up landing on the terminal, right? He missed the runway by a mile and he landed on the terminal. And so at the end of the video, he kind of was doing his outro and he was like, yeah, no matter how good you think you are at flight sim, you cannot land this actual plane. It's too complicated.
Oh, yeah.
And I watched that and I'm like, challenge accepted, sir. So
that's beautiful.
Literally, this is a true story. Yeah. So I went and called a bunch of professional flight sim schools. And these are the machines that are up on the hydraulic stilts, the really expensive ones they train the real pilots on.
Ooh.
And I said, can I get in there for a couple hours and just use it? I just need to prove a point to my friend. And all of them were like, no, this is not for civilian use. We're training real pilots here. You can't use it. So I just kept calling over and over and over places. Finally, I found one that was south of London, and they were going to let me use it. It was very expensive, but I was like, this is a once in a lifetime thing. So basically, I flew my friend out from the United States. I went down to the south of London to this place, and we went in there, and we met with the guy, and he's like, what do you want to get out of the experience today? And I said, with all respect, I don't want you to say a single thing to me. I want you just to set me up and I'm going to fly the whole plane. My goal is to turn it on, fly it, land it, and turn it off.
Ooh.
And my route was going to be from Toulouse, because obviously that's where they make the Airbus. And I was going to fly the A320 into Marseille. And I was told that the approach charts for into Marseille are kind of complicated. You got to go down an RNAV and track a VOR in and then turn right at the last minute to get into the runway. So I was like, that's the one I'm going to try. I'm just going to go, balls to the wall and try and get as much as I can out of this experience. So he started me off cold and dark, started the whole thing up, taxied out, did the whole thing. I had, my friend who had never flown a plane or any kind of flight sim stuff at all. I kind of trained him on what to do. I, press this button at this time, blah, blah, blah. So we got in, tracked the VOR in, turned right. He was making the call outs like a pro. I was so proud of him. And we landed the plane, taxied it in, and turned the whole thing off. And we turned to the guy and we was like, how'd I do? And he's like, legitimately, I'm not kidding, I've trained pilots that aren't as good as what you just did. And I was like, wow. So I was pretty blown away by that, but that was my dedication to the craft. I had to go try it for real and see if I can prove Tom Scott wrong. So
that's an incredible story. Most people are like, I just got into it, because, something to do for the day. But yeah, yours was a challenge to do an actual real sim. That's incredible. That's amazing.
Yeah, as close as I can get to the real thing, which is, that's the best I'll take in my life. I don't ever want to fly a real plane, but that will do.
Okay, so the next question. What inspired the creation of Beyond ATC, and what challenges did you face developing it?
Yeah. So, at the time we started, which was, I guess, 3 years ago or so at this point, the only product that was available was Pilot to ATC,
Mm-hmm.
a couple of the others, but they were all very old and dated. And I wanted something that felt modern.
Mm-hmm.
I basically set out to just make a more modern version of Pilot to ATC with better voices and a better UI. Um, so I'm just for some background. I'm a game developer by trade. Um, I knew nothing about ATC, or making a flight sim program for that matter.
Mm-hmm.
However, I have worked on AAA and indie games for about 20 years. So I had a lot of experience making fun tools that, give lots of feedback with a focus on polish. So my first thought was to build out the tool in a 3D engine. This would give us complete control over the simulation space. Instead of like shuttling information from MS into a proxy program, I thought, why not just recreate the entire 3D world in my own engine,
Mm-hmm.
do the calculations there, and then transport it back? And, I guess thanks to my background in games, that was entirely possible. So to that end, I'd say that the biggest challenge was figuring out how we wanted like the brain of the tool to work. I played around with some early versions of ChatGPT as like the kind of decision maker, and it became clear very early on that it couldn't handle procedure or spatial reasoning.
Mm-hmm.
So I quickly moved to kind of handling the logic locally, with the AI being more of like a helper that's on the side. And yeah, that also had the added benefit of not accruing like an ongoing cost, meaning I could offer the program as a one-time cost instead of a subscription, which was the number one thing our market research told us that users were interested in.
Oh yeah, by far.
Yeah.
That's interesting because like I've been watching Beyond ATC. I've been seeing your progress over the past couple of years, and seeing the initial videos come out that you had shown really tells that story you just shared with us. Is the early days of I want to use AI as much as possible, but it's not there, and it's still not there, and there is a lot of benefit to AI, but also people really need to understand is that we're just not to the level where it can really think on its own and control things on its own. There still has to be so many barriers in place. And that's something that software itself can be structured to. And that's what you've been able to do with Beyond ATC.
Exactly. It's like creating the kind of scaffolding from which the AI needs to be constrained within. And then once it's constrained, you can allow it to do whatever it wants. It can come up with amazing outcomes and, just say totally novel things that no programmer could have predefined. But if it doesn't have that scaffolding in place, it can just run amok, hallucinate, and just come up with whatever it wanted. So it was important to have the architectural structure in place to kind of keep control over it, so to speak.
Absolutely. Is Beyond ATC, or sorry, how is Beyond ATC different from other ATC solutions?
Yeah. So, well, I mean, just as I mentioned, cost is probably the biggest one. We can discuss who does which procedure better, who has better voices. But we can do that till we're blue in the face. But
Mm-hmm.
ultimately, the programs have different merits, and I think each one stands up in a different way. But at the end of the day, I think what sets BATC apart is the price, the value for money. So, as I mentioned over and over again, in our early market research, it came back with a single sample point as our primary focus: the cost. Players did not want another subscription in addition to buying planes, Navigraph, the sim, all that other stuff. So we made the decision very early on to build architecture that supports a one-time payment instead of incurring an ongoing cost. And of course, the other tools will point out that the restrictive on-rails nature of BATC as being the shortcoming of the program. But it's that sole decision that allowed us to make it a one-time payment versus an ongoing payment. And, looking at the numbers, I think the decision speaks for itself. Basically, while they're busy sending themselves cakes, we're over here collecting checks. So
Nice little throw there. Nice little throw there.
yeah, just a little shade. And on a more like user experience level, I just think we put a lot of time and love into the usability of the program. I basically made this program for myself. Like, what things do I want out of an ATC tool? And then I just went and built that essentially. It means we focus on our core competency. We're not branching out into a bunch of runaway half-baked features and split the program into dozens of smaller programs. That just kind of creates churn for the end user, and it creates a dilution of the identity of the program. So we focus on one thing, ATC. Stick to first principles, do it with love and passion, and as always, under promise and over deliver. And I think that's what makes BATC different.
Yeah, and that's something we definitely shared a lot in this community, and in other communities I've seen, is that you all really just focus, as you said, on the core product of itself, and it's in the name, right? ATC. Does BeyondATC cater to both beginners and advanced simmers? And if so, how does it balance ease of use with realism?
Yeah, I mean, I think we try and do both as much as possible. Obviously, you can't cover everything, so you have to kind of pick one and focus on that. But it is why we put so much emphasis on the different modalities of communication. You can use buttons to communicate. You can have your co-pilot speak, and you can talk to it yourself. So we feel this really helps new users learn what to say in which situation. And we're also building out a suite of like these little tutorials, like these quick little like voice tutorials that you can play with, and they're just funny and simple, and they just kind of lets you get your feet wet and figure out the program. Um, so I guess how does it balance the ease of use with realism? By having the program speak for you, you can maintain realism while also it's doing most of the heavy lifting. And I think that strikes the balance nicely between learning what to say, interaction, and then trying to actually, learn how to use the program at the same time.
Yeah, and what I always loved about the initial UI of Beyond ATC is the fact that it does tell you, it gives you basic indications of what you're supposed to say next. And that is great for the new people, because I've done a couple different videos here on the channel, and people say, oh, thank you so much for, teaching me how to use ATC. And realistically, all I'm doing is looking at what you all provided me to say. And I think people think ATC is so complex. And yeah, there are definitely aspects of ATC that can be complex. But what Beyond ATC has done is just kind of simplify everything for you. And if you want to go that extra step and make it a little bit more complex, you certainly could. And that's where the barriers you guys have placed in there, which is fantastic. Another thing this is a little story I like to share, is the fact that I always used to talk to ATC. I was like, I'm never ever going to let AI talk for me, or have the co-pilot talk for me. Never going to have that. It's just a stupid feature. And then I started using BeyondATC more. And I said, you know what? I like the co-pilot talking for me. Because, think about it as in real life, the captain isn't talking to ATC. It's typically you're going to be your first officer, your co-pilot, or the other person doing it, handling the comms. And that is that aspect of realism, right? Authentic flight simulation, if you want to go that direction.
And if you look at the reason why they even do that in the first place, it's to balance the workload, right? Like when you're landing the plane, you're doing so much stuff to make sure you have all your dials in the right place, you have everything where it needs to be. And the extra workload of listening to what someone is telling you, memorizing it, repeating it back, and then internalizing it, and then taking action on it, that's a lot to do, right? So I had a similar story to yours where I started using it, and I just had the co-pilot on for testing. And I realized at a certain point, I'm like, I actually enjoy this more because I'm listening to what someone else is saying, and I'm still kind of taking that as a proxy and moving it over into my own actions. So it still felt very, involved and part of my procedure, but at the same time, it was still being taken care of for me. So I actually ended up preferring it in the end, same as you.
Yeah, it's no different than if you're driving in a car and you're listening to GPS, right? GPS instructing you to take a left. What are you going to do? You're going to take a left. You're still in control. You are the pilot in control. But ATC is handling the conversational aspect of it all, which is fantastic.
Precisely. Yeah, it's a great metaphor.
How does community feedback influence your development roadmap? Wow, completely butchered that question.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's important to us. I guess it's so important to us that we have it baked right there into the roadmap ourselves. Where we take time to implement user requested features that the community can vote on. And this is something I learned from working on a bunch of early access games in Steam. Um, all those years of doing the early access games and building that user feedback right in the development cycle, that was essential for a successful product, because people want to feel heard. And I think a lot of people want to feel like they're part of the development process. It kind of like makes you feel like you're in on the secret and can influence the outcome of where the product goes.
Mm-hmm.
So of course we have the core things that we want to add to BATC, and then we have the stuff that the community wants. So that's why we just have sections of our roadmap that just says user implemented feature right there into it, where we just dedicate time to adding what the community wants at that point. So I think we manage both of them quite well. And as long as we don't do any of the community features at the expense of the core features, it seems to work out in the wash.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny, the roadmap thing, because I remember when you had the poll up for GSX and the other options in there in GSX1, the community has spoken. GSX, I want this, and then you had the community, some of the community members who were like, "Oh, this is a waste of time. I don't want GSX. I don't want to pay for this." But
Yep.
You did what the community wanted, and that was a great thing. And then you've also recently released CPDLC within BeyondATC as well. So like the list is there, and you're going to get those done. It's just whatever the community wanted first, and then you'll move on from that point.
Well, and I think a lot of things that people didn't know about that vote was that we were going to do everything on that list. This was just which one we're going to do first, right? So people were like, "Oh, we want to have CPDLC instead of GSX." I'm like, "Y'all, we're going to do both of them. It's just we're going to do the other one before this one. So don't worry, just wait a little bit and you'll get everything."
Yeah, that's and I love the transparency. I love the honesty, and I love just the openness that you have within the community itself.
Yeah, I think that segues nicely into the next one.
And this, of course, is a big question. Any memorable or surprising stories from the development process that you'd like to share?
Yeah, like we were just talking about, for me, the most memorable thing is I think how the players like to be treated. I think a large part of our success has to do with how we treat the user base. And for me, these were hard-earned lessons over multiple decades in the games industry. And it seems so obvious to say it out loud, but the lesson here is treat users like people, right?
Absolutely.
They are people.
Oh yeah.
Don't take them on some wild marketing ride where you can promise them the world. We've all seen what happened with No Man's Sky and Cyberpunk.
Yep.
Don't inundate them with DLC and BS gotcha marketing. Just treat them like people, and they will appreciate it. So for me, to be transparent in your actions, show what you're doing. When we first released our pricing, people hated it, and I can understand why. And at that point, we could have just said, deal with it, and I'm sure the product still would have sold just fine. But what we chose to do is, we listened, we changed tact, and we reworked the pricing model. And I really think our users appreciated that. So we don't try and play tricks on our customers. We just show them openly and honestly, here's what we are, and more importantly, here's what we're not. And I think that level of transparency has really helped to garner trust.
And see, and that's an awesome story. I was just telling a coworker this week that I always tell him he's not a flight simulator at all. He's basically a bear gamer as well. But I was talking to him a little bit about BeyondATC, as I do often, and he thought that you all were making money off the premium voices, and I was like, no. That's just to pay for the voices. And you also have that right on the website as well, which is fantastic. And that just shows you could easily be making money off that. People would be paying you, and you could easily make additional revenue off it. But you said, no, I want to do what's best for the consumer.
Well, and this goes right back to, like I was saying, I started with Pilot to ATC, and there was a whole bunch of voice options you can download. I think it was like Cereproc. And then if you really had a little bit of dev knowledge, you can hook up like Amazon Poly to it. All of those voices were kind of crappy, but they were still better than the default by a country mile, in fact. And it showed how good the program can be if you just added a little layer of polish on top. And I'm like, I'm like, why don't I just remake Pilot to ATC, but just literally add better voices and literally make it have a better UI?
Yeah.
And I think that alone will make people super interested in the product. So for me, I was really just trying to improve upon what was already there. And then it kind of just took on a life of its own and became something brand new. But even just a little bit of polish, even just a little bit of added voices can make the world of difference between having an immersive experience and having one that takes you out of it. You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. You recently added the local voices to Beyond
Yep.
ATC, and there are a lot of people are like, "Oh my gosh, these are incredible," and other people are like, "I don't like them," but it's a learning curve, and I absolutely love them. I love the local voices. I think they're really, really cool, and it's neat hearing a different voice. If you fly as much as I do, you hear a lot of the
Hmm.
similar voices over and over again, right? And it's cool to have some of these new local voices and how fast they just kind of splat out there compared to the basic voices and even the premium ones.
Yeah, and that was a big part of it. Is like the premium voices, like you were saying, we could make money on it, but it wasn't about making money. It was about providing more ways to enjoy the program. And so we basically just said, instead of taking the Amazon poly route where you need to make an API key and set up an account and be like basically a whole dev, we're just going to shortcut that for you and just put the API straight in ourselves, and then you're just going to have to pay for it because you know we can't support the actual payment of that if we want to offer this as a one-time payment. But we're cutting out all the difficult work of getting this really nice voice service set up for you. So it was really important to us to provide other options, which is why we're working on the local voices, that people that don't want to spend money on the premium, they can just use that. So I think it covers all the ground quite nicely.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I love it. And now this is what a lot of people maybe have coming in for this episode to hear. What upcoming features or improvements can users look forward to in future updates?
Yeah, well, I mean, the big obvious one is VFR. I think that's probably going to be our 1.0 launch feature.
Mm.
So we'll go out of early access into VFR. Since the very beginning, I've never given a date, so I'm not going to do that here. But um, to just kind of make transparent our plans before we add new features are something that always kind of take away stability from a platform.
Hmm.
So we really want to get the platform as stable as possible before adding a big new feature like VFR. And so that's why we've been taking the past 4, 5, 6 months just to stabilize it, just work on bugs, fix as many bugs as we can, get the thing as rock solid as we possible, and then we're going to go back and add VFR. So this will be in addition to user requested features, as we just discussed. That's already on the roadmap. So
Hmm.
we'll take another vote at some point, add some user requested features, but the main core thing is VFR coming up next.
What's the most rewarding part of seeing people use Beyond ATC in their flights?
I think the answer to that one is pretty simple. And it's just that seeing other people want the same thing that I wanted when I first started out to make this program, that's just incredibly rewarding.
Hmm.
Um, I wanted this program so badly. I was so disappointed in 2020. As an amazing program as it was when it came out,
Hmm.
the ATC left so much to be desired. And I'm like, if there was only these like couple little holes filled in the service, it would be just end to end incredible.
Hmm.
And so, yeah, it was a bit of a bet. I was like, I want this. I looked around, I did some market research. Other people wanted it, but I didn't know to what extent.
Hmm.
So when we finally started to, drop the trailers and the idea, just the amount of interest it churned up, that was just so rewarding to see. Like, okay, other people really want this just as badly as I do. So that was a very vindicating moment for me.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure. Just yeah, absolutely. I totally get that. And our final question, if you could only fly one aircraft in the sim for the rest of your life, which would it be and why?
Well, if you've seen any of my content, then you know exactly the answer to that question. It's the Phoenix A320. I will wax poetic about this company consistently, and I think they deserve every bit of the praise that they get.
Absolutely.
They just make amazing planes. I love the way they run their development team. I
Hmm.
love their transparency. You can easily say that I modeled a lot of the way that we handle
Oh
our
yeah,
service off of them,
for sure.
just because I saw how the community related to it. They made posts and everyone was just like leaving comments. Wow, you guys are great. Most transparent company. You're telling us exactly what you're doing, why it's taking so long, blah, blah, blah. So I was just like, shoot, just copy them and we're good to go. So I took my own experience from the past. I took what they were doing and I was just like, that's how we're going to run our company. And it's worked gangbusters.
Oh yeah, the Phoenix, I rave about the Phoenix. And what's really weird is that I'm a late adopter to the Phoenix. I got into the Phoenix late last year because I read too much into Reddit and Facebook and, the internet about performance being, dodgy and whatnot. And I was like, I don't want that. I have the fly-by-wire. It's fantastic. And then,
it is, yeah.
Yeah. So then I was like, well, might as well give this Phoenix a shot. At my first flight, I was sold instantly. And I just fell in love with the way that company operates, as you were talking about, the transparency and they're just the passion for flight simming at the core of the company is what makes them a standout within the community.
100%. Yeah, no, I think they're top of the top, best of the best, creme de la creme. So can't say enough nice things about them.
Now, the next things, the captain doesn't have an idea what these are. These are going to be rapid fire questions. So it's going to be A and B. And so we'll see what the responses we get here. The first one is Boeing or Airbus?
I think you know the answer, Airbus.
After your last one, yes. Long hauls or short hops?
I prefer short. I'd rather be working on the program than doing really long flights, but I love short hops. Yeah.
Yeah, that's me too. Hand flying or autopilot as soon as possible?
AP as soon as I can push that button, man. I don't know. It just like it feels like I'm playing a strategy game. I'm like, here, you take over. I'm going to be monitoring all this stuff, and just like I like watching all the machine do its work. So I hit that thing at, I don't know, 500 to 1,000 off the ground.
I like the strategy game. I like that idea. I never really thought about that, but that's pretty good. Night flying or daytime flying?
I'm going to split the difference. I'm going to say I load up live time, and whatever time of day it happens to be, that's when I fly. So it ends up being half and half.
Yep, that's about what I do too. VFR or IFR?
At the moment, solely IFR. I just prefer it. I like the procedure of it. I like, reading the charts. I love how just each piece has procedure that you have to follow, and that each thing, it's just so well organized, and that just appeals to the nerdy side of me, where I like all the things in the right places, and I'm just like, let's do it this way. IFR all the way.
Fantastic. And this one, I'm sure we all know the answer to based on the previous questions. But yoke or joystick, or side stick, I should say.
Oh yeah, side stick. I got my full setup with my wind wing and my oh my god, what's it called? The Thrustmaster with the throttle quadrants and the whole thing. So I mean, yeah, I like I got an Airbus setup. That's the way I roll.
Are you at all interested in the new wind wing throttle quadrant?
Oh my god, I would spend all of my disposable income on flight sim if I didn't hold myself back.
Self-control.
Yeah. And something I think all of us flight simmers don't really have much of, because the second we get into this hobby, we're like, yeah, that's the end of my bank account. But at the same time, it's worth it.
It's a good hobby to have because it keeps you out of trouble, mostly.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, Captain, anything else you'd like to add to our interview today?
Yeah, well, just, hey, thanks for having me to you. And then I just, want to give a shout out to my team. Whack-A-Moles has been doing an amazing job with the traffic, and he's learned so much about the program and just helping out in every way. English T has been working on the CPDLC stuff and absolutely crushing it. Maeve has done all of the sounds for all of the planes and the interface and just, the voice modulating, everything. And then Copilot has been working on the back end. So you don't really see any of the stuff that he does, but the fact that you never don't see it is what makes it so meaningful. So just a huge shout out to my team. Couldn't have done without y'all, and just really appreciate it.
Yeah, everyone in the Discord is fantastic. If you ever have questions, dealing with technical issues, or just want to rave about the incredible product, absolutely join their Discord. The BeyondATC Discord is fantastic, very big and happy helping community there. So Captain, thank you again for joining us here on the very first episode of The Brief Room. Thanks everyone for listening, and leave some comments down for Captain to see if he wants to pop on in and respond to any of them.
Amazing, man. Thanks for having me.